All right, it's media day. We're talking 196A with the legendary head coach at Katy, Gary Joseph, who got a bobblehead from us a couple years back, so you know he's got to be something special. Coach, let's talk about your squad because man, usually when we talk about Katy, we go right to the offensive line and running game, but I ain't doing that this year. I'm going to go right to the defense, and even though Adam Carter graduated, that defense is absolutely stacked. You look at the names, you look at the defensive line, you look at the 8 returners. Talk about how happy you are with your defense going into this 2025 year.
I don't know if I'm happy with it, but I'm excited for them and excited for the opportunity they have. You know, we did had some growing pains beginning of last year with them and stuff. Usually don't start that many underclassmen, but it was out of necessity as much as anything else. Last year was our smallest senior class in the last, since I've been head coach, last 22 years. It's the smallest senior class we had and stuff. So, some of these kids had to grow up in a hurry, and there were, like I said, there were some growing pains part of it. But I'll say this for them: they got better as the year went on, and they bought into what we're doing, and I felt like they had a good off season, and spring training went well for them. And we found a couple of kids that weren't counting on playing and stuff, which always helps. Depth has been a problem for us, and I feel like we'll have a little bit more depth than what we've had, so that's a good thing and stuff. But yeah, defensively, we have some experience coming back. We have a great kid. In fact, you're gonna laugh. I took one of our defensive ends, good football player who played for us as a freshman too. I've moved him and stuff to the offensive side of the ball, sit there and strengthen that team a little bit, and it's been great. Just his leadership as much as anything else has really worked out. But we feel like that we may not be able to replace him, but we'll put some people in there that can compete with him and stuff, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, you mentioned the fact that you don't remember having a team that didn't have a lot of seniors like you did last year. Well, the deal with last year is you got to fight through it, but then for this year, you're like, all of a sudden, I got experience. I got guys like McMillan and Jeremiah Smith back there, and guys you can count on because they played those 13 games last year and got the experience.
They have, and Isaiah McMillan is a great kid and a good football player. People understand. He he'd never played defense before last year and things, and it just took him time to sit there. And he grew up, and people challenged him, and I think he took it personal and things, and he got a lot better, and he had a great spring as far as being a football player, being a great spring, being a track runner and stuff. So it was good, and just good to watch him grow up. But the thing that impressed me the most about him is just you watch his the way he talks to the other kids, and leadership and the respect the kids have for him. No doubt. I feel like the one thing we do have because of all the stuff, we have more kids that have shown great leadership and are willing to step there and step out, and not going about being the popular guy, but about sitting there understanding what it's going to take to sit there and be a great football team.
Well, let's flip it to the offensive side. But what everybody wants me to ask you all across Houston is what's going to happen at the quarterback position now that Gunner's gone. My freelancers definitely are asking because they get faked out by the play action all the time. They're like, hopefully, he doesn't have a quarterback that's great at play action because I keep missing plays left and right. I was like, well, you need to get better at it because that's what he coaches down there. But we're worried about the quarterback position. What do you have there? What kind of competition you have going during the off season?
We have some competition for the job. We've got a couple of kids that are going to be good football players and things, and I'm I'm very hopeful and things. We got a kid that um, Jackson Franklin, his dad is our quarterback coach and stuff. In fact, and he played varsity football, missed the last several games and stuff last year and things, but he was been our backup since he was a sophomore and things. I felt good about him. He understands the offense and things. The problem he has is that ain't the typical coach kid. He tries to do too much sometimes and stuff. But he's going to be able to lead our offense. I feel very comfortable about that, and he can run our offense. That's the great thing about doing what we're doing and stuff. We don't have to have those kids sit there and win it by themselves. They have to be able to complete the play action passes and do things. I'm not saying the kid's not talented. When we had Andy Dalton now. We threw it all over the yard and stuff. And, it's not just about throwing. It's just about, having a quality, being able to catch it and be able to pass pro and things. But, I'm confident in Jackson. I've got another kid that has been in our feeder program and moved off. It's come back, and he's going to be a good football player. It's taking a while to sit there and learn and understand not just what you're doing, but why you're doing it and things like that. He hadn't been in an offense like ours. And I really feel like he'll develop, and the Hartwell kid's going to be a good football player. He can do a lot of things, and I'm not saying we're not doing a lot of things with him and stuff, because it's just what he's going to be capable of doing. But I feel like we have two people that are going to be able to run our offense just fine.
And, well, speaking about running the offense, that's what you guys do so successfully, is run the ball. Talk about how strong those guys are at the running back position, and be able to create holes for them with that big offensive line led by Lamar Brown and them.
We have some running backs. They have, I feel like that's probably one of the strengths of our team is I've got a kid that started on JV, Tony Manuel, is a backup running back. I've got a kid that broke his ankle and had 2 surgeries, his freshman year, and we felt like he was going to be able to step in last year as a sophomore and play and stuff, and he hadn't been able to bounce back towards ACL last year, so he's still a ways away, but he's going to be a good football player. And then I've got a sophomore kid that he's a lot like a Seth Davis type kid. He's a smaller kid. He's very quick, and he can hide behind the offensive line and stuff. It takes people a while to find him and stuff. He's going to be a really good football player. So running back position, probably one of the least of our concerns. In fact, it was so much so I moved one of our running backs from last year, Fail George, and moved him up to fullback and stuff to give us another guy in the backfield that gives us a threat and stuff. And we can do a lot more stuff with him as far as that. And, he could be an H-back, tight end type guy. He could be a guy that we leave it in one back, we're motion out of one back and stuff and things. So I feel like, we'll be have a lot more depth there than what we had and stuff. We're going to have some good football players running back, though. That's, like I said, our offensive line, Lamar Brown is really going to be good. Adapo, he stepped in last year when Byron Nelson went out in League 8 and stuff and missed the rest of the year and stuff, missed the last 6 games. And Adapo came in and started for us and played for us. And he's really improved in things, and he's a great kid and things. And our center, was a little bit banged up, Cross Adams last year. And our quick guards back and Freeze and Andrew Freeze, and he's probably our most steady offensive lineman right now. He's going to be really a good football player. Was a good football player last year. Kind of undersized. He was only about 260 pounds, but he moves well and he understands the offense. And so I feel good about the offensive line. And and our backup tight end last year is back and stuff. So we have some experience there. It's just some of the kids may not have been starters, but they're going to be good football players.
All right, well, I'll leave you by just talking about the district real quick, because that Katy ISD just keeps getting stronger. I know Jordan keeps getting stronger. Peto's always there, and McFay over there at Tompkins does some things. And last year, you gave up 2 touchdowns maybe in one game in all district play. The rest of the time, they were just struggling to get across the midfield there. But these teams get stronger. So what do you think about 19-6A this year as a whole?
Well, as a whole, it'll be a stronger district. I felt like you could see the growth in 19-6A. They're not even weeks off, as people would say and things. And we know about it going into the season and stuff and things. We understand that we'll always have a target on our back and things. And we'll get everybody's best shot. That's understandable. But, I was very impressed with, some of the teams last year. And Jordan obviously is the, next one and stuff. They lost 1 district game last year. Lost, 2 games total, I guess. Stuff. So it's important that we're coming ready to play every week and things. And, it's important, for this district, and it's important for us to sit there and continue trying to sit there and be the bell cow of the district too.
I appreciate it, Coach. Hey, we'll see you down the line, and thank you for joining me.
No, thank you. No problem. Thank you. Talk to you later.